Welcome and glad to have you here for Purpose as Medicine, Building the Nervous System Resilience. Julie is going to be joining us today, and we are going to be talking about Purpose as Medicine. Welcome back to the summit. How are you?
I'm doing great. It is really an honor to be here. And I have to tell you, I've been listening since the summit began to a number of the things that, the different sessions that are there. And it's an honor to be part of such an amazing array of people here.
Well, I appreciate that. We were very intentional in really bringing a variety while trying to keep the thread of the nervous system regulation to provide just so many different options. Because as you know, there's certainly not one way to do things. So let's get started. Julie, as we're talking about purpose as medicine, let's start with hope.
Hope is a huge thing, and hope sometimes takes courage to have to be able to move forward. But even before talking about that, I want to start with thinking about just the summit, the whole concept of building nervous system resilience. What does that mean? We think of this as meaning putting ourselves back into a place of alignment. And we know what we're talking about when we talk about our nervous systems, but what do we mean when we talk about resilience? And I find this actually pretty fascinating because we think about resilience as the ability to bounce back, like a rubber band. But if you take the word resilience and you pull it apart, and then silience, what does silience actually mean? Well, the definition of silience is the unnoticed excellence, the hidden talents, and the superpowers that we all let go unnoticed. So when we talk about resilience, we're really talking about bringing back to the surface or an awareness of what we already possess. And what's been so incredible about all the different speakers is, like you and I know, there's more than one path to the top of the mountain. And each person that I've listened to speak offers a different path and a different way to do that. But we're all trying to get to the same thing. We're trying to get to that salience, to those superpowers that every single one of us have at the base. And that brings us to the concept of hope, as you said, to know that that hope is there. And it brings us to medicine. And what is medicine? Each person that I've heard speak on through this summit offers a different form of medicine. Medicine, I've worked with numerous Native American tribes, and medicine to them is not pills and you follow this treatment and that treatment. Even for the Navajo, medicine means to walk in beauty. Well, that's kind of resilience, getting back into touch with our superpowers, our inner selves, and who we really are, which is why each person who's spoken, medicine as sound, medicine through breath, medicine through astrology, these are all things that all lead to the same thing. And I think it's just so wonderful that you're even presenting this in this way, because anybody who's out there listening has that opportunity to say, oh, I resonate with this, or I resonate with that, and this makes sense, and I'm learning things, and I keep learning things. I've had a blast just even listening. So it's which has been a whole lot of fun.
I agree. It's interesting that you say that, because I myself have had a few aha moments or things that I didn't know, just like the silience. I was unaware of that. As we were talking about yesterday's summit, and there were so many different things, what came up was everyone may not have resonated with all of them, but you resonated with at least one of them.
Well, and that's what's so wonderful about this, because we each need to shine brighter and we each need to move forward. And it's helpful to have the support, the inspiration, and the encouragement, and to find your own path. Having spent over 40 years studying Jungian psychology, I always love the the quote, if the path before you is clear, you're probably on somebody else's. And that's our finding our own way forward, that's past worn out beliefs, worn out systems, that just goes forward, which is why I'm an unconventional strategist. I work at helping people have their dreams take flights. And the problem is so many people go, I'm doing everything right. And I'm following this and I'm following that. And I don't understand why I'm stuck. And with a crazy background that I have that is very unconventional and has been in all different fields, from science to psychology to business to the arts. What I found is that the people who succeed in achieving their goals follow unconventional pathways. There are certain things that they all have in common, but they don't have time for worn out beliefs. They have a vision and they move forward on their vision. And this is part of what I put in my book, The Extraordinary Power of Fireflies, where I talk about not only what I've done, but I provide 20 examples of individuals around the world in all different fields who are doing things to make the world a better place and move forward. And when I say that, make the world a better place, it goes down to each individual. When you are happy and when you feel like you know your purpose, that's the power. When you feel good, you're changing the world. When you feel good, you work with others and you make them feel good. And then together that changes the world. And then they work with others. And this is how we spread this around.
A
And
a absolutely, and Julie, you brought up a good point with your unconventional background. I didn't give you a proper introduction.
oh,
Explain to people a little bit about your background, if you might.
I have worked in everything from international politics, national politics, science, environmental conservation, um, the arts, from the theater to film to television. And I now work as a coach showing other people, because people will say, how did you do that? You didn't have the right background to do this and this and this. And these are all the things that we let limit us and hold us in one place. And because I didn't want to be, oh, I can do it, so you could do it. This is why I keep pointing out other people to go, okay, this is just the way I did it. You don't have
Right.
to follow me. It's not a one size fits all. Here's somebody else who did it in a different way. And here's somebody else who did it in an even different way. And to give the inspiration and the encouragement to say, it's your turn to find your way.
Yeah, I love your work, and you do have a very unique path, and we're gonna get through some of this. Uh, Unique, yeah, unconventional and unique, and I love unconventional, that speaks to me. So we're gonna dive into this a little more, but I think a lot of people get purpose and performance confused, Julie. How do you help someone tell the difference between life that's meaningful and life that's demanding?
You
Because
just you just used the perfect word. You said life that's meaningful. And I separate these between purpose, knowing your purpose, and then knowing what gives your life meaning. I have an exercise that I often do with people in workshops, that if you're up for it,
I love exercise. I think that, that's one of the takeaways people have had over the last 3 days is a lot of the speakers have offered some exercises and tools. So you take it away.
okay. So if you have a pencil, a pen, a piece of paper, that's going to be really useful and helpful. And if you don't, that's okay too. Just try to kind of keep in your mind what your answers are, because I start with saying we need to begin for that medicine to remember our purpose, and that is our medicine. So to center us to start, I want everyone just to take a minute and to take a breath and just breathe in And hold it for 2 counts and then breathe out. And why is the breath so important? There have been speakers on this summit who've talked about doing breath work and talked about the importance of breath. I go down to the importance of breath because as a scientist, we hear, oh, you can live without food, but you can't live without water. And I go, you can live without both of those, but you got to be breathing. And we don't stop enough to think about the importance of breath. Not only connects us with our inner self, it connects us to everybody else and every living thing that is here on the planet. So we start with breath. So that was for everybody who's watching. And now this one's going to be for me to join you. So we're going to take one more breath in and hold it for 2 and then release it. And that's kind of how we become present in the moment to be here now. And now I'm going to ask you a question. Who are you? And I want you to jot down the first thing that comes to your mind. Who are you? Don't think about it too much. Just put it down. And now I'm going to ask you a second question. Who are you? And this time your answer has to be different than the first time. Who are you? And now I'm going to ask you a third time. Who are you? Now describe who you are in a different term than you've used already. And by now you're probably beginning to get frustrated, but I'm going to ask you again and go through the same thing again. Who are you? This is the fourth time. This is your fourth try. Who are you, to be able to explain who you are in different terms than the beginning. And then your final question is, who are you? And when we do this, I always say, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Who am I? And this is how it works. Usually we go, oh, who are you? And we start at this level of who you are professionally. I'm a lawyer. I'm a coach. I'm an artist. I'm a this, I'm a that. And how you identify yourself in the world. And then I ask again, who are you? And it usually comes, oh, how we identify. I'm a woman. I'm a man. I'm Latino. I'm Asian. I'm how you identify. Then we get down to the next layer. Who are you? Oh my gosh, is this woman going to stop asking this question? But then it becomes who we are in relationship to others. I'm a sister. I'm a mother. I'm a brother. I'm a daughter. And how we identify in that way. And then I ask again, and you go, my gosh, she's really got to be nuts. And then you start identifying who you are in terms of your traits. I'm kind, I'm sweet, I'm courageous, I'm fierce, I'm, whatever. And then I ask the final time and you go, my God, this is it. I've had it. I'm a human being. And now we're actually getting somewhere, because who you are at your core is you are a being of light. And whoever you are and wherever you're listening from, you are a being of light. You are here because you are special. And you are here with a purpose of shining that light as bright as possible. And to do that through love. What is the word? The word is love. It gets down to love. And we are light. And what is light? Light is energy. And your light may respond to breath work. It may respond to sound work. It may respond to anything. But what's important is that you know that you are light. And look at all those layers we had to go through to get to that. And that's what happens in our society and on our daily basis. We forget who we are. We're so busy being mothers and lawyers and doing this and doing that we forget that we are beings of light, and our purpose is to shine brighter. And that, if you can remember, because life is messy, things go up and down. If you can remember that, you always get to the medicine of knowing, okay, I'm a being of light. Now that we're all naked and we're just beings of light here, as you start putting on these layers again, clothing. I start with your resilience. You are this being of light and you're here with these superpowers. What are your superpowers? And it amazes me how many people don't know what they are, because people go, "Oh, you're so great at writing and you're so great at speaking." And you go, that's nothing. How can I be great at that? It's not hard. We have this misconception that to move forward and to do the things we want to do, it has to be hard. And these are your superpowers. And we know they're your superpowers because they're so easy. Life is supposed to flow. Yes, there are things that happen, but you have things that are basic and that are always true. You're always being a light, and you always carry your superpowers around with you. Now, as we build up, here's where we run into issues, because we all carry trauma. Everyone, we all carry childhood trauma. And if you didn't carry childhood trauma, you're probably carrying the guilt around that I should have had childhood trauma, and I don't. But we've all had these things that have misinformed us. They've told us we're too tall, we're too short, we're not good enough, that we'll never make it, that we've had these experiences that bring up fear and anxiety. And when we have different things happen in the world, we go, oh, I can't do that. This is going back to our original traumas. It becomes important to know what those traumas are and the energy and the emotions that they invoke. But here's the first pivot that needs to take place. Too many times we allow our traumas to lead us and to make the decisions for us. I can't do that because I'm not going to make it. I can't try because I'm too scared. I can't. So we need to take those traumas. And personally, I don't think that you ever get over them. They become part of who we are. And, in Jungian psychology, we call them, this is your shadow. But these are the things that help make us shine even brighter. They're the things that help create and decide who we are. So we want to take that trauma and we want to not have it lead us. We want to have it inform us, which is to carry it by the side, which means when you're scared and you're going back to that younger version of yourself and freaking out, going, oh my God, and I'm angry and I'm hurt and I'm this and that, you go, wait a minute, I see you and I recognize you and I'm acknowledging how that feels, but we're not going to let that lead us forward. I'm going to let that inform me. And together, we're going to cultivate that courage to keep moving forward. We use trauma too often as an excuse. Of course, I can't do that. I'm not good enough. And we prepare everything that this is the way that it's supposed to go. I was told to get this degree and I was told to do this, and this is how to do my business plan. I've done everything right, and it's not working. So this must be, we take this as a sign from the universe to say, you're just not meant to do what you think you want to do. And this is, when we find that thing, and this is that separation of what gives your life meaning. I want to do blank, but then we come up with all the excuses that we can't because we're allowing trauma to inform us. We're allowing our insecurities to take over, and we do everything that everybody says that we're supposed to do, and it doesn't work. So we go, obviously, the universe is saying, I'm not meant to accomplish this. And what that does is it validates your trauma. See, we told you, you're not good enough. You can't do this and you can't do that. So the real key and the work is to be able to take your medicine and get back to the basics and say, I am a being of light. I am worthy. I am deserving. And all of these things have happened, and it's scary and okay. And I acknowledge that, but I'm going to let that inform me. And I always tell people, if it's not working the way that you want it to work, then what the universe is telling you to do is pivot and open a new door. There's always a different way to the top of the mountain.
Well, I loved how you weave that all together. And the importance is the awareness is you may want it, but if it's not working, it's time to pivot. And a lot of times it takes us maybe a couple hot minutes to get that realization. So I'm going to jump on that a little bit. So a lot of your work is built on storytelling. And
Yes.
you did write one of the most amazing books, and we'll get into some of
Yeah.
those stories, I'm sure, in this. But when we feel triggered, you know, often we're not reacting to actually what happened. We're reacting to the stories that we told ourselves about that, right?
Yeah,
So what
exactly.
helps you notice when you're in the story before it became your truth? Because the stories we tell ourselves and the truth, there tends to be a bit of a disconnect that creates these
Yes.
problems.
Yes, there's a meditation I actually teach that starts with, "The world is what you think it is." So what story are you gonna tell yourself? And if you want a better future, you gotta start telling a better story, and not, only allowing it to inform you the way that you want it to inform you. And like I said, we've all got trauma in our background, but let me give you an example of how that changed. And some of the work that people have done, and like I said, I've written about all of these people who've done things in different ways, and these people continue to inspire me every day.
I
they
bet.
they do the medicine, they know who they are at their core, they're light, but what gives their life meaning can change. So an example of this, one of the women that I wrote about is Rita. Rita was born in Uganda, and when she was no more than 6 or 7 years old, military guerrillas came into her village, and she and her sister watched her parents being murdered right in front of them. I mean, you just go, well, this is something you're never going to get over. No, it's not a matter of getting over. It's something that's going to help define you for the rest of your life, but you're going to carry it to the side. Rita, at 7, was taken into the guerrilla camp, was treated basically as a slave. She ran errands and she did whatever she was told to do. But there was a woman in the camp who knew what Rita's future was going to look like and that of her sister if she stayed. And she helped to arrange, which was incredibly brave, and that's her own story. She managed to arrange for Rita and her sister to escape with an older woman, and together they walked. They walked from Uganda to Kenya, and
Wow.
they found their way to a refugee camp. So there's your story, and you go, oh, all right, happily ever after? Of course not, because that's not how real life works. So they're there, and you've got this pain, and you don't know what to do with it. And Rita tried a lot of different things, and she found a certain solace in connecting with yoga.
Hmm.
It brought her back to her purpose. I am a being of light. In yoga, we always say what namaste, but we never think about what that means. And in Sanskrit, namaste actually means the light in me recognizes the light in you. So there's that medicine back to my purpose. I get it. I'm light. So Rita started working with yoga. She became a yoga instructor. And she said, if I can find a way back to my medicine, my purpose as light, I'm going to share this with other people in the refugee camp. And she began teaching yoga to hundreds of other refugees. And she did this actually for many years and was very good at it. And she still does it, but not full time all the time. She taught other people how to do this as well. Here's your purpose. Here's your medicine. Okay, now what gives my life meaning for Rita was sharing this with all of the other refugees, and for those that found their purpose, their medicine with that too. Now, what gave her life meaning began to change. I've done this. This is great, but I think I want to try something else. And so she pivoted with the same purpose, a being of light to shine as bright as she can. And she became an entrepreneur. She started businesses that would help the people in her community and work with with some of the refugees to give them a different future. She also works on social justice issues. Now, Rita is what I call a firefly, which is the book that I wrote, Fireflies, because fireflies, if you've ever seen a firefly dance across a field as the sun is setting, you know the magic that they bring. And that's a reminder that we each have that light inside of us that becomes our medicine, and that's how we tap into the magic. And then we find what gives our life meaning, and we can pivot. It doesn't have to be one thing for you throughout your whole life. Maybe it is, but if it's not, that's okay too. And that's the concept, that we're each here on a unique path, and each one of us has a unique light to shine, and the world is waiting for us to get off of the sidelines and to jump onto the path and to illuminate a pathway for others to build up their own confidence, to go, if this person can, so can I. I can shine my light brighter too.
That is just it's such a powerful story, I love it, and if you've ever been to a refugee camp, they're not the most touchy-feely places to be, so that even adds a little bit more to that story. But I wanna ask you, why do you think our minds tend to rush to assign meaning, and especially negative meaning, when we sit in silence, or we watch facial expressions, or we're just in a situation of uncertainty? Why that direction?
I think that goes back to that childhood trauma, and
Okay.
I we have, from the time that we're born. You know, when you see a baby is very clear cut. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm hungry. Why do we love being around children? Because they remember to play, and my gosh, we get so serious as we get older. We take ourselves too seriously, but part of this is the result of being what I call enculturated. It's
Mhm.
not just family. We're told by our community what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Um, which is why I love the term unconventional, because we have so many worn out systems and worn out beliefs of what you can or should do, and how that works, and it's time to move past them. It's a concept I call, it's rising in those spaces in between, and that's, to me, what being unconventional truly is. It's not that you're rebelling against anything, it's not that you're radical or that you're fighting, and you just go, this is the path that needs to move forward. Um, and I don't care that this is how other people are doing it. This is how I need to do it. I dropped out of school when I was 14 years old. And it wasn't because I hated school, but it wasn't because I hated learning. I wanted to learn, and I
Right.
didn't feel like I was learning anything. And I found my way into university. And at the time that I did that, that was unheard of. You couldn't be in high school and attend college. It just, but I called the provost and dean of the university on the carpet, and I said, you say that you're here as a higher institution of learning, and I'm here to tell you that I want to learn. So you're going to open your doors to me, or aren't you? I know that, and at the time I couldn't get college credit. And it's like, then give me high school credit, but let me come to a place where I can feel that I can learn. Now, I wasn't fighting, I wasn't rebellious. I just said, here's the path. And I found a nice enough provost who said, okay, she's kind of put me on the carpet. I've talked the talk, I got to walk the walk. And they helped make arrangements for me. Now, think about this, as we have more and more people in the world that begin to follow their conscious, their dreams, their desires, and moving past the this is what you should be doing. What was unconventional becomes conventional, and we begin to do a paradigm shift, and things begin to change. Today, years later, if when I tell this story to someone who's 18, they say, oh, I've got lots of friends who graduated from high school and they've all got associate's degrees already. They've been attending college. Nothing. Well, that's because it wasn't just me that did this. There were other beings of light, that
Mm.
have the same thing and the same concept and the same experiences. And like I said, as more people begin to do this, the unconventional becomes conventional. And it's a different way to move. What did they say? The most dangerous phrase in our language is, well, we do this because this is the way we've always done that.
Yes.
It's something that we should be asking ourselves all the time. There are so many people that I see that are held back because they go, I don't have a degree, or I want to do this, but I have the wrong degree. I, there's always something, and we allow this to feed into our subconscious. And unfortunately, we allow it to guide us. When we can go through all those layers, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? I am a being of light, and I am worthy and deserving of happiness
Yes.
and of shining my light brighter.
Beautiful. You're changing the world one event at a time. So once you realize that you're living inside a false, outdated story, what's the next step? How do you update that story in a way that's honest, self respecting, and actually changes your behavior?
The next step is to build your superpowers. I also encourage everyone to know what your code of values are. And it's not enough to say, oh, I want to be honest and I want to be kind and I want to be transparent. Da, da, da. You have to define what that means. I
Yes.
could say honesty is really important to me, but I'm going to tell you that there are times that kindness for me will trump honesty. If I have a 4-year-old that is showing up in front of me with makeup all over their face and feather boas coming everywhere and saying, do I look gorgeous? You know what? I'm going to lie and I'm going to say, you bet you look gorgeous.
Great example.
Because, what does that mean and what are our boundaries so that we know how we're going to move forward? Um, there are examples of people who go, what, I just wanted to do this. So I like sold my soul and I said it was okay to, it's not okay, but it's not okay. And you'll never find yourself in that position where your integrity is compromised, where you're being asked to do something that you don't believe in. You'll never find yourself in that position if you know what your code of values are and you can define them, because that gives you your boundaries. Then, as you figure out this is what gives your life meaning, um, start looking at what makes you happy. In our society, we are so busy being serious and concerned that we forget that we should be playing. We forget to say we're here to be happy. When I work with groups, I often encourage people, whether they've got a business, an organization, whatever it is they're trying to do, make sure what you're doing is multi-generational. And I can't stress that enough in terms of how important that is, because between the ages of 30 and 45, we've got that seriousness of this is what we need to do and how we need to go. Once you pass 45 to 50, you're kind of going, oh my gosh, I'm going to start looking at things in a different fashion, and I'm going to remember to play, and I'm going to remember not to take this stuff so seriously. And when you have the kids that are younger and you've got that 10-year-old going, I'm bored, can we do something fun? You've got the full balance to try to meld it together to help move things forward. But how do you find what gives your life meaning? Your next step is to sit down and to say, to think about what you enjoy, what makes you want to get out of bed in the morning. And a lot of times this is allowing yourself to fantasize, to use your imagination. And it amazes me when I say to people, what makes you happy? And how many people go, well, I don't know. Adults, I haven't thought about that in a long time. You know what? Go ask a 5-year-old what makes them happy. And they'll be, I like cars. I like chocolate chip ice cream. I like this television show. I like to go play outside. What makes you happy? And I ask rooms of adults this all the time. And how many people can't answer that? I had an amazing experience working with 15-year-old boys who were all considered troublemakers and sent away. And they all carried a chip on their shoulder. And I asked them after the second day because everybody was carrying around that trauma and everything that goes with that. And I stopped them and I said, "What makes you happy? If your fairy godmother could show up at your door tomorrow and say, 'Here it is. Your wish is my command. Tell me what you want and I'll give it to you.' What would you ask for?" And what's interesting, 15, 16-year-old boys, and I'm expecting every one of them to say, "Oh, I'd be a famous disc jockey and I'd have, millions of dollars in the bank and I'd have this kind of car and whatever." And they stared at me with blank faces. And the first thing that one of them said to me is, "You know what? Nobody's asked me that. No one has ever asked me what makes me happy."
Oh,
And we stop asking once they're little kids. "Oh, you're an adult now. We do the happiness has nothing to do with anything." Nobody asked them. And over the next couple days, these kids came back to me one at a time, and they gave me things that they thought about. This makes me happy. And this is what was fascinating. 16 years old, one of the boys came up and he said, "You know what makes me happy? Sunday mornings when I'm at home, my dad and I make pancakes for the family." And another kid came up and said, "You know what? I take the dog sometimes for long walks in the woods, and I realize when I can do that when the sun is setting just at the right time, that makes me happy." We don't take time to think about what makes us happy. And the truth is that happiness happens in the moments. One of the things that I think is so crazy, we set these goals constantly. I have to do this and I have to accomplish this, and I'm going to make it to the top of the mountain, and I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur. I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to be whatever. And we do it. And I always tell clients and groups that I'm coaching with, spend some time, watch some of these talk shows on TV and listen to the celebrities that they talk to and how many times they'll say to them, they'll tell stories and they'll tell you the stories of everything that went wrong. And they'll go back to your own life and think about anything that you accomplished. "Oh my gosh, we finally did blank. This was great." So you think, "Okay, I'm done. That's it. We sit on the top of the mountain. We're there." But what do we do when we've accomplished a goal that we want? We pat ourselves on the back for about 30 seconds. And those that have climbed with us, we sit around and we share stories, but we don't share the stories of, "Oh, do you remember when this happened right or that happened right?" We share the stories of everything that went wrong and we laugh about it. And this is what you see celebrities do when they're talking on talk shows. And this is what we do once we've accomplished our goals. When those things happen, they're devastating. And you want to climb under a rock or under the covers and never come out, and things are never going to be the same again. But when you pick yourself up and you keep going on in the future, when you've accomplished what you want, you laugh at them. And those become some of the moments along the way that were the most beneficial, that were the most special. And then, of course, we're human and we go, "What's my purpose? My purpose is to shine my light as bright as I can. I need to find new meaning." And we go, "Oh, there's another mountain way over there. Let's go start all over again." And we start with this whole thing of we become through the imposter syndrome all over. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the right degree and I don't have the right education. And I don't have the anything. That's kind of to me how you know you're starting on the right path. And we go through the same thing over and over again. So I believe that it's time. The world is going through a quantum shift, and we need to be doing that as well. And we need to reframe how we're working and what we're doing. When you know what you want to do, and here's your dream, instead of stressing all along the way until we make it to where we want to be, we need to go, "You know what? I'm really confused. And I'm not sure the right direction to go in. I'm not sure the right path to take." And that's where I usually tell clients, that's how you know you're learning and you're growing and you're moving forward. But we need to embrace that and to know it's okay not to know. It's okay to fail. You only truly fail if you give up and you stop trying. And it's okay to have like major screw ups. Um, I want to live in a world where we can all be very authentic and honest. So I'm the first person when someone will say, "Oh, and how was your last month?" Boy, if things haven't worked out the way I want, I'm going to say, you know what? I made a couple of really big mistakes. And it's amazing how when you do that, it provides permission for everybody else to say what's going on in their lives. We live under these social constraints of, oh, everything is lovely, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and things are so successful. Let's move out of that way and let's talk about what's really going on, because that's how we get down to the light in me sees the light of you. I'm getting ready to try this whole new thing and I'm terrified. I'm ready to, embark on this, and it may work and it may not work, or we tried this and it didn't work. And every time you do something that doesn't work and you pick yourself up and try it again, you're not starting at the beginning. You're starting at a place with more knowledge, more wisdom, um, and to move forward. And, I have to be honest with you, in writing the book, there were the people that I wanted to talk to, and I wanted to talk about failures, and there's some really big failures that are like behind the scenes stories that I wanted to share, from people who are very well known, because I said, this would really resonate with a lot of people. And these are people who are successful enough and actually noteworthy and known enough that you'd go, wow, well, if they can fail and do this, so can I. But it amazed me, no matter how much they accomplished, that insecurity was still there. And they said, oh no, Julie, you cannot write about this. I would be just mortified if you let people know that this is what happened. And you go, but you come across so confident. Um, I dealt with one person who, well known, very wealthy. You go, well, they should have everything, right? Yeah. What don't they have? They don't have the confidence to be able to say, this was a big mistake. You can't go public with this. So part of the lesson there is, no matter who you are, where you are, we're all dealing with the same insecurities. We're all dealing with the same fears, and the same anxieties. I actually ended up, because I didn't want to upset anybody and bring anything to the forefront that they didn't want, I actually wrote about me. And one of the bigger mistakes that I made, I worked for many years with zoos and aquariums, and working, as the director of the National Aquarium in Washington, D.C., I had this brilliant idea. I want to be the first person to introduce kids who are visually impaired to aquatic animals. No one's ever done this before. I'm going to make a name for myself. This is going to be great. And I spent 9 months working with scientists and psychologists and PhDs to design the perfect program for kids who are visually impaired. And I had everything set up, and the day came where I invited a school to come and to pilot the program for me. 9 months of work, here we are, ready to go. And I was told by all of these PhDs that, yes, they say visually impaired, but 98% of these children have a certain amount of sight. So you can use things like flashlights to show them in the insides of aquariums, and you can do this and you can do that. Well, when I tell you these kids showed up, they were 100% visually impaired, 100% blind. This whole program took about 7 minutes before everything fell to pieces, and there was screaming and there were things breaking, and it was like, this is crazy. It's like, it's time to call time of death. I brought everyone into an auditorium area, and I stopped, and I mean, this was an absolute fiasco. And I realized I had dealt with all of these PhDs and psychologists, this and that, and I forgot. I forgot to talk to my target audience. I forgot to go to the kids. So I stood up and I apologized. It was one of the major flub ups that I had done to date. I've done lots since. But I said, you know what? I have to apologize. There were things I was told, oh, let's have sound come through the aquarium so it sounds like there's waves and the kids will feel that they're at the beach. And the kids go, we're blind, but we're not dumb. We know we're not at the beach. And that really kind of throws us off balance. Okay. I need to know from you guys what would be fun, what isn't fun. And I asked them, I said, would you be willing to work with me and let's design a program together? Something that you're going to learn from, you're going to feel really good about. It's going to be fun, and that other kids in the same situation can also benefit from too. And we started from the beginning. But think about this. I did everything that I was told to do,
Right.
and it didn't work.
Wow, that's powerful, and I love you being transparent because a lot of times you get a lot more from the what didn't work. So the people who weren't comfortable sharing that really took an opportunity away from people.
Yeah.
So it's hard to believe, but we're getting short on our time, and I do have one topic I want to talk to you about
Sure.
because I think it's really crucial right now. And I think that you're going to shine some beautiful firefly light on this. So there's clearly a lot going on in the world, right? People on all sides are rebelling against action ideology in many countries around the world. Others are observing, they're unclear what action to take with their concerns or their outrage, like they just don't know what to do. And you feel like you have said that the world doesn't need more anger-based activism in your work. It needs more leaders and lighthouses.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for you to talk about that because one is fueled by fear and the other is fueled by clarity. So we have about 10 minutes left, but just because we are just in the heat of so many things and so many people struggling right now, I wanted to touch on this, and I thought you are the absolute perfect person.
Thank you. And I really appreciate that because you just hit on something that's where a lot of my focus is, and with coaching clients and with people. Now is our time to gather. Now is our time to shine. And I always tell people, and I've worked in politics. People don't understand that I worked in politics during a time where everybody kind of worked together. And that doesn't happen. We've got this huge chasm right now. And you can have the person fighting on this side and the person fighting on this side. We need to be fireflies. We need to be the ones that are rising and the spaces in between. While politics are taking place, while the world is changing, geopolitics, the issues remain the same. And while everyone is busy fighting and arguing with each other, we still deal with homelessness. We're dealing with immigration. We're dealing with, and the way the world is changing too in terms of climate, we have to start looking in terms of immigration that we can all one day be migrants. This is not, so we need to do our own paradigm shift to say that we need to look at the world differently. The United Nations, about 10 years ago, developed, they're called 17 Sustainable Goals. And I want to truly encourage everybody just to get on the United Nations website and go and look at what those 17 sustainable goals are, because it's something that I think every single person can resonate with. You can fight and scream and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is there, but they're there. Poverty, we need to be addressing poverty. We need to be addressing gender equality. We need to be addressing sustainability in our cities, looking at land issues, looking at water issues, looking at social justice. In my book, I actually separate things where we've got social justice issues, we've got environmental issues, we've got economical issues. It all is intertwined. Now we're talking about resilience here, that silience. I work through a thing of consilience, which is where you use all of these different avenues to help inform you. But these are all the things that need to be done. And I'm actually right now in the process, in addition to coaching and working with fireflies who say, I want to do something and I want to do something differently. How do we do this? We do this by creating a community. And I the Firefly connection. Here we go, and we've got a Firefly collective to say we need to be working on the issues. Believe it or not, I work, in terms of environmental issues, I work with a lot of people who don't believe in climate change. We don't talk about that. We talk about, do you want clean air? Do you want, do you want to be healthy? Do you want these are all the things we can agree on, because as we start rising in the spaces between, we start making connections and we start illuminating pathways for other people to stand on there too. Now is not the time to be frightened. Um, we all have our meltdown moments and go, holy moly. But I want to remind everybody who may be listening to this that every single one of us is here on purpose at this time. We chose to be here, and we chose to be here because we've got something to do. We each have a light to shine, and it has to shine brighter. And no matter how you choose to do that in terms of meaning, we're here to go through this whole quantum paradigm shift together. A lot of the things that are breaking down when we go, oh, this is terrible in terms of our education system, it's terrible in terms of our healthcare system. It is terrible what's happening, but there's an opportunity here to change things, to say, what do we stop looking at what is? Here's my definition of a firefly. A firefly is someone who looks beyond what is and beyond the reality. That's a Rita who's looking beyond that there are gorillas that have taken over her homeland, beyond what's happening, beyond what's taking place. And instead of screaming and yelling, we start thinking about what could be. Instead of screaming about our education system is falling apart, what would you like it to be? Our health system doesn't work and it's broken. Where's our humanity? Where are we saying we need to bring people in? We'll stop screaming about what's not happening and start thinking about what it can be. And I think the reason why I started the whole Firefly Collective as a movement is to say, I don't know how to solve homelessness. I know about the environment, but I don't know how to solve homelessness. I don't know how to do this and that. There are people who do. And
Yes.
there are people sitting there, and hopefully some of you watching this, who have ideas. And even if you don't have ideas, when you start walking the walk and taking action, you start thinking, oh, well, why aren't we doing this? One of the fireflies I wrote about worked as a registered nurse. She was the head nurse of a hospital. And she said, oh, I can't get over what we're doing in terms of healthcare. And I can't, but she focused on, I can't believe that we are throwing away all of these good things. When a patient goes into a room and if they don't use everything, whether it's surgical dressing, it's Band-Aids or whatever, it's still packaged, it's still good, but it has to be thrown away.
Mm-hmm.
How much of this is being thrown away? So she went to the CEO of the hospital and said, would you allow me to recycle it? Within, I think it was less than a year, she had 2,000 pounds of items. What do you do with that? Well, then she looked around because this part was kind of new to her. And she said, well, there are all these missions, we can give things to people
Right.
where we are. But there are all these missions around the world, but they're all religious and they make people believe one thing or another. What if we just became a humanitarian mission?
Love
And
it.
let's go and share the bounty that we have here with places all over the world. And that's what she began to do. This became Partners for World Health. They do an absolutely amazing job. And I'm always floored at how transparent they are with all of their finances. Because one of the things I teach too, if you're playing with an organization, go look at where they're spending their money. And they're just out there, they're upfront with everything. But that's just one way.
Mhm.
Then there's, Molly Bedingfield, who right now is working with Global Angels, and she is outside of Kenya, and she's working with rural groups, and she's working at getting telehealth to these people. I don't have any background in that healthcare industry, but I'm looking to see these are people who do, and they know enough to attract people within their own realm to become a community to make a difference. This is true. We need the arts. I can stand here and tell you about what's going on in the world scientifically. Which would you rather listen to, me or to see something artistic in a sculpture, a film? We need the arts. The arts are
You're
just as important
you're
as
right,
health.
it takes a village. It absolutely takes a village, and I love that we bring in the experts, and we don't think that we have to know it all, or we don't think that we know it all. It's beautiful, Julie. It is literally unbelievable to me that we have blown through an hour already, literally. But I do wanna thank you for reminding us that even in these challenging times, meaning hope, everyday acts of light truly matter, no matter how big or how small. Your stories truly offer a powerful reframe, showing us that resilience doesn't have to come from force, but it comes from connection, courage, and choosing how we choose to show up. I'm really grateful for the wisdom, the perspective that you shared today. And for anyone out there, it's worth a look. If you want to learn more about Julie and her work, go to her website, theextraordinaryfireflies.com. And I have to share that there are so many more stories in that book that are like incredibly powerful and unbelievable. It's worth it. So thank you very much for today.
Thank you so much. It's really been an honor to be here.